Good evening. Welcome to Monday's evening session on the 7 factors of awakening. And we are now at the module of investigation of reality. I'm Wai Chong. And I thought today I will start off with just a sort of a brief recap and review of what we have covered so far, and also to connect this module with the previous module. Because the 7 factors of awakening are a set of 7 conditions that are presented within the Buddha's teaching as favorable conditions that as we strengthen them, we have this condition within us, but we need to reinforce them, strengthen them, bring them together, and to provide the favorable condition for us to experience awakening. Awakening in this sense, or enlightenment sometimes, you don't have to think of it as some perfect state that we will attain at one goal. Instead, in fact, in the Buddhist teachings itself, quite often progress along the spiritual path are divided into different stages, but there is a distinction in that there is a major point of transition, which is the point where we awaken to the reality of ourselves, of our life, and that point of we can call that point the point of awakening. But subsequent to that, there is still a long way to go for us to reinforce the newborn insight, to strengthen it, and also to allow it to permeate through our being, to help us to let go of old habits and old conditioning. So that transition point of awakening, which I often think of it as a profound shift in our perspective. So prior to that experience of the state of awakening, we function primarily within a particular perspective, a particular framework, which sort of dictates the way we perceive things and we conceptualize things and we think about them and we react to the various happenings in our life. And by creating the conditions such as the 7 factors of awakening, we catalyze a profound shift in our perspective. So after the shift happened, we will still shift back actually, because it's for quite a while we sort of toggle between different perspectives. But nonetheless, once we experience for the first time the profound shift in perspective, we suddenly awaken to other possibilities. We awaken to a completely different way to be, to live, and to perceive the world and to relate to the world of our experiences. And so these 7 factors of awakening, to which I'm taking my time to go through, because I think it's valuable and very helpful also in our spiritual practice, in our practice of meditation in general. Is the condition to catalyze that shift, or we can say to catalyze awakening, to bring about awakening. So previous module, we talk about the quality of mindfulness. To put it in a simple way, I usually describe mindfulness as our natural ability, which is related to attention, but not limited to that, of bringing the various things or various objects or various things of concern to the foreground of our awareness, to bring it, allow it to come fully to mind, come fully into our awareness, is one way of understanding mindfulness. In the previous module, I talk about the 4 different ways of applying mindfulness. We can apply mindfulness to the body, which means to allow the different aspects of our body, our own body or other people's body, to come fully into awareness, to appear to a mind. So, of course, the easiest one is the different bodily sensations, but not limited to that, but there's one aspect of it to come fully to mind, so that we are aware, we are in touch with our own body, the sensations, how our body is doing, is feeling. That leads to the second one, mindfulness applying to feelings. Feelings here refer to pleasure, pain, or neutral sensations, neither pleasant nor unpleasant sensations. Three different categories, to become aware of pleasant feelings. Of course, what are the causes and conditions or objects that trigger such pleasant experiences, as well as the unpleasant ones, as well as those that are relatively neutral. So mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of the mind itself. The mind, which is a very generic word to refer to our consciousness or the conscious processes and experiences that we have, and to be aware of the mind, to really notice and be aware of how our mind is functioning from one moment to another, what sort of factors might be influencing the functioning of our own mind, to notice when I'm feeling very sleepy, the mind is very drowsy. So sleepiness, drowsiness is influencing the functioning of my mind, my judgment, my decision making. Or on the other hand, the other opposite end would be the mind very agitated, very anxious, very restless, full of energy. And sometimes we can be quite specific. We can be aware of the mind's coming under influence of anger. I'm getting angry, so I have I'm functioning under the influence of the mind state of anger. Other times I'm functioning under the mind state of compassion. And still other times I'm not angry, I'm not compassionate, I'm just just a normal day, just a usual day, just dealing with things. So in that occasion, the mind is not under, there's no anger, and there's also no compassion influencing the functions of my mind in that moment. And that leads to the fourth application of mindfulness. Mindfulness of Dharma is the word that the Buddha used in this context. And I have previously explained the word Dharma can have different meanings in different contexts. Could be mindful of the Buddha's teaching. So there's one meaning of the word Dharma. Dharma can also mean truth or reality. So to be mindful of the truth or the facts of reality. And Dharma can also mean specific experiences or phenomena. In particular, in the Buddhist context, they tend to divide phenomena or experiences into two categories: what is wholesome and conducive to happiness, and what is unwholesome and conducive to suffering. So there's in itself, there are already three different ways of understanding mindfulness of Dharma. This mindfulness of Dharma, after the four mindfulness, naturally to what we are talking about in this module is called investigation. I call it investigation of reality, but the traditional term is investigation of the Dharma, the same Dharma as mindfulness of the Dharma. So in the presentation of the seven factors of awakening, there is a way of presenting, in fact, we present them as not as isolated factors, but as how they work together, harmoniously together, to create the conditions necessary or conducive for awakening to happen. So we can see how mindfulness very naturally connect up with investigation. To give mindful attention, help us to inquire, help us to investigate the different aspects of our reality, to uncover the facts, to see things clear. To see things clearer. So in this module, so far, I have been presenting different techniques. You can call them different techniques, because first of all, I introduced this notion of in meditation and even in daily life to be able to differentiate between when our attention is preoccupied with sensing. That means we are very much present in this moment and receiving what is coming through our physical senses. So we are paying attention to sensing, noticing what is unfolding through our physical senses, and contrast that with thinking, which is yet another mental activity. But thinking is one step removed. Thinking is elaborating on what we know or what we sense, but using different concepts, bringing in different ideas and concepts and memories and imaginations. Thinking is quite a complex activity. So to contrast these two kinds of activities of our own mind, when are we sensing and when are we thinking? Of course, it's possible that we might experience them sort of overlap, but the important thing is to be mindful and to be able to differentiate when the bulk of the energy of our attention is it with sensing. That means we are in touch with what is happening through our physical senses in this moment or what is going on, or we are lost in thoughts. The energy of our attention are caught up in thinking. Could be thinking about anything. For me, it's daydreaming, which is a form of thinking, but my attention is all caught up in this world of daydream, or fantasy. And so that is also a legitimate kind of function of the mind, and it's very useful to be able to differentiate these two activities. Yeah. And this is part of investigation of reality. So by investigating, by noticing, my attention is drawn to sensing, or my attention is drawn to thinking, we can learn a lot about ourselves. Some of us are dreamer. We spend most of the time and energy dreaming, daydreaming, so to speak. Yeah, and others may are much more practically oriented, and just go for it, deal with what's happening, and so there are just different ways we function and different times also. Yeah. So this is the first so-called technique I introduced in this module, differentiating between sensing and thinking. We do both of them. Inevitably, all of us do both of them. It's just a matter of sensitizing ourselves as to which occasion we do more of which one. And at this moment, am my energy or attention preoccupied with sensing or with thinking? Yeah. Then to move further along this technique, the second method I sort of introduced is to refine our investigation on our thinking abilities, our thinking activities, to be able to tell, what am I thinking about? Am I remembering the past? Am I imagining the future? Am I just commenting on the present, or am I more specifically judging? I'm just passing out judgment and criticism about others or about myself. So what sort of so to have a more refined awareness of the different types of thinking activities there are, and which are the ones that I tend to get involved in or caught up in, and hopefully also to notice what sort of impact such thinking activity has on my own well-being, or on my own abilities, my sense of happiness or unhappiness. So that is an extension from the first. In fact, I think I also invite people to refine that investigation to the point that we can hear clearly. We are mindfully aware of the kind of thoughts, individual thoughts that flow through our mind. The different thoughts form a story. So to be aware of the kind of story that I have been telling to myself. This could be stories about myself, could be stories about other people, stories about life in general. So, and they are made up of a whole series, a sequence of thoughts, words and images, could include past experiences, could be imagined scenario. So, and usually they form a pattern, a repetitive pattern, and we enter into them again and again. This is part of our conditioning. So to investigate and to bring greater awareness into this. Yeah. And also I introduce, so this two happen in real time. As we are thinking, we are aware, I'm thinking, I'm sensing, I'm thinking of this, I'm thinking about that. But I also introduce this notion that we can do it after the event, after the fact, by way of retrospective mindfulness. Just look back and try to recollect, bring to mind in that moment, subsequent to this particular event, subsequent to this particular kind of actions. We can look back and see, what was I thinking just now? Why do I choose to do like that? What sort of feelings? What sort of thoughts? What are the other things that is arising within me in that moment? What do I perceive? What do I see? What did I see? What did I hear? What was I thinking about? So we look back and bring the past experiences into awareness and bring it to mind. So this is retrospective mindfulness. And this in itself is also very helpful because maybe in the moment, the heat of the moment, we can't see clearly. But then after it, especially when there is a period of time, not too long because we tend to forget, but after a while, there is the distancing by way of time and also by way of space. Maybe we are no longer, if the event happened at work, and now we are back home by way of space and location, then we are able to be a bit more objective. We can pay closer attention. We can notice things that in the heat of the moment we are unaware of. And there's also another way of investigating, coming to see clearer by way of retrospective mindfulness. And last week, I extend this further, talk about the practice of recollection, which is a very purposeful way of applying retrospective mindfulness and to recollect and bring to mind specific aspects of our past experiences. And we do it with a kind of intention. It's very intentional, very purposeful way of practicing and of recollecting. And it has certain impact on us. And this is also another way of investigating and looking at, in this case, at my past, but not in the most habitual way that I like to think about my past or look at my past. No, in a very deliberate, intentional way to select and bring certain aspects of my experiences, my past experiences, and to see whether we can develop a different view or look at my life, look at my own experience, look at myself from a different point of view, so to speak. And so we did a recollection on our own practices of generosity, our own practices of ethics, and by bringing that to mind to see if we can also rejoice in our own creation of wholesome actions. So this is roughly where I have covered previously. And today, before we move on, I want to revisit mindfulness for a very specific reason, because having sort of touched on a little bit on the technique, how we go about investigating the reality, the Dharma, and so forth, we can revisit mindfulness again and see how that really closely connect up with investigation. And one of the quality that we can bring into our own experience through the practice of mindfulness, and which really help with investigating, seeing things clearer, as we investigate, is to be able to help body and mind to calm down, to be less agitated, less reactive. As we are able to calm the system down, we are able to allow us to shift and function more harmoniously, more effectively, more efficiently, and that really contribute. That in itself is not investigation, but that contribute greatly to our ability to investigate, to be mindful, and to see things clearer. So, and we can do that with the help of mindfulness, especially mindfulness of body, come back to be in touch with the body, which goes a long way to calm the body, help the body to come out of a reactive state of being stressed and reacting to the stressors in our life, to reverse that process, to reassure the body, hey, it's all right. We are not at work, we are not at a place where we are stressed about. We are now at home, or at a place where we can actually just slow down, just to de-stress. So we do that through mindfulness of the body, mindfully aware of the state of the body, the different bodily sensations. And then as the body release is tension, release, which is way of reacting to stress, release is tension. For brief moments, pleasant feelings arise. Pleasant feelings enter into our experience. The pleasant feeling in this case comes from the release of physical contractions, tension, the release of physical reactivities. And so I'm going to invite you to be mindful of those pleasant feelings, those pleasant sensations that come out of the meditation, that come out that arise as a result of being mindful of our own body, and to invite those pleasant feelings into our meditation, into our awareness, and to be mindfully aware of them. And in a way to enjoy them while they're here. They're not strong, they're usually quite mild and faint, and they don't last very long, they don't hang around very long, they fade away very quickly. But while they're here, while we are aware of them, just welcome them fully into our awareness so that we allow ourselves to experience them, to enjoy them. This is mindfulness of feeling, in particular mindfulness of pleasant feelings that arise as a part of our meditation. And this goes a long way to reassure our mind, to calm the mind down, and to persuade the mind to release its version of reactivity, which is usually in the form of agitated thinking, ruminating thinking, repetitive thinking around the same topic, to ease up on that. Maybe it won't stop completely, but just let that go. And just by doing that, you can see we are facilitating the calming of body physical reactivity, the calming of mental reactivity through mindfulness of body, mindfulness of feeling, and that naturally leads us to mindfulness of the mind. As the body and mind calm down, without us doing anything extra, we naturally become aware of the state of our own mind. So we are more in touch with the body, and we're more in touch with the mind. And this set the stage, of course, for mindfulness of Dharma, which incidentally also means it's most suitable for investigation of the Dharma, investigation of the reality. Right, so we're going to try out this first 3-step mindfulness of body, feeling, and hopefully become more aware of the state of our own mind. So I invite you to join me in a short guided meditation. And as usual, first of all is to select and adjust our body, allow our body to settle into a suitable meditation posture. So while we do that, I'm going to just ring the bell to signal the start of our meditation. So I spent an extraordinarily long time relative to the length of the meditation on the early steps, on the first 1 or 2 steps. Sometimes I spend all the time of the meditation on just getting the body ready, helping it to find a suitable posture, as what we are doing now, and to reassure the body that this posture is supportive and safe by allowing the body and ourselves, of course, to notice that in this posture, hopefully we are resting on physical support, which could be a chair, a seat, or the floor. And of course, we can also lie down, lie on our back. In either way, in whichever posture, we become aware of the sensations beneath our body, become mindful of the sensations coming through at the points of contact between body and seat, body and ground. And we are aware of sensations of solidity, of firmness and stability beneath us. Sensations that are very reassuring to the body. They allow the body to feel that it is supported in this posture, there is stability. And given time, the body will realize that it does not need to be so tight and tense in this posture. There's no necessity to tense out, to be so contracted. And you can start to loosen up, to unwind some of this tension that's been so wound out, and release, or let go of some of those areas of tightness, of holding, contraction. And having kind of settled the body into the posture, we need to go a bit deeper with that. We're going to practice mindfulness of body. We're going to invite the different bodily sensations to come fully into awareness so that we are in touch with our own body. We reconnect body and mind, which facilitates a natural release of unnecessary contraction and tightening. So first and foremost, starting at the crown, the topmost part of our body, we simply quiet down and allow the sensations at our own crown to come into awareness. I'm referring to very simple sensations, very mild, faint sensations. Could be a little bit of tingling, a slight sense of pressure, a touch of warmth or coolness or itchiness. And may well be nothing at all. We sense nothing at all at the crown, which is fine. Moving on, we allow sensations from our own face to come into awareness. How is our face doing? Are we unconsciously contracting some of the muscles at the face? Muscles of the forehead, those around the eyes, those in the jaw. And is it possible for us to somehow relax those facial muscles, to invite in a different feeling, one that come across as softer, more at ease, more relaxed, and hopefully more comfortable in our own face. Next, we invite sensations at the neck, the throat, and shoulders to come into our awareness so that we reconnect with this part of the body. We become keenly aware of what is happening right here. Quite a few of us do hold or store quite a bit of tension and tightness at this region between the neck and shoulders, where we find unpleasant sensations, uncomfortable feelings that don't go away easily. So see if we can just acknowledge those unpleasant sensations, those tightening, those contractions, and just let them be for the moment. We allow sensations in both arms to come into awareness, starting from the shoulder joints. We can be curious as to what sort of sensations are present here at both arms. Maybe at the level of the skin, the touch of fabric against skin, sensations at the level of muscles, sensations at the joints, and not just sensations at the upper arms or elbows, but also those sensations at the lower arms, at the wrists, and also sensations in both hands. we find that our mind is distracted elsewhere, drawn elsewhere by sounds or thoughts, know that this is very common and very normal. It's a normal reaction in our own mind. And we simply invite our attention to be back here and now, and invite the different sensations in our body to just appear in our awareness. So coming back to the chest area, allow sensation at our own chest to come into awareness. Sensations at the front of the body, sensations at the back, the upper back, the middle back, and sensations we notice from within the body. So as we invite sensations from the body to come into awareness, see if we can notice also along the way occasions where the body releases the tension, the tightness, and pleasant feelings arise at those areas. Very mild, very faint, pleasant sensations of relaxation, of softening, of easing up. Welcome those pleasant feelings into awareness. Be mindful of them. We practice mindfulness of pleasant feelings and just allow ourselves to enjoy them while they're here. They don't last very long. So we make use of the opportunity to welcome something pleasant, something nice and comforting into our own awareness. So we are aware of sensations in the arms, in the hands, sensations of the palms, the back of the hands, the fingers. And since we have awakened the sensations in both arms and hands, see if we can give permission and rest both arms, the weight of both arms comfortably on their support. So coming back to here and now, we welcome into our awareness sensations from our own chest, sensation from the front part of the body, from the back part of the body, sensations associated with breathing. And whenever we find our mind is distracted elsewhere, attention has gone elsewhere to sounds, to thoughts, see if we can simply invite our own attention to be back here and now, to allow those sounds to come into our mindful awareness, those thoughts to come into mindful awareness. Being here and now, we continue to be in touch with our own body, to allow sensations from the abdomen to come into awareness, both the front and the back, and deep within the body. We allow sensations from the pelvis to come into awareness. The pelvis is where powerful muscles gathered. See if we can sense the weight of the pelvis and the upper body. If we are sitting, sense that weight and allow it to rest comfortably on the seat. We allow sensations in both legs to come into awareness, starting from the hip joints, sensation in the upper legs, sensation at the knees. So feel free to move at your own pace. Continue downward sensations from our lower legs all the way down to the ankles. The body's sensations are simple sensations, not necessarily spectacular or intense. Allow sensations all the way down to our own feet to come into awareness. And as we awaken the sensations in the legs, see if we can give permission and rest the weight of both legs comfortably on the floor, on the ground, on whatever physical support they are on. So we facilitate our own body to settle down and be more and more comfortable in the meditation posture, to continue to unwind, to loosen up, to release. We continue to be present here and now, to be mindful of the changing bodily sensations, as well as any pleasant sensations, any pleasure to come forth as a part of this meditation, especially pleasant sensations to come from release of tension and tightness, and allow ourselves to enjoy those pleasant feelings while they're here. So we invite our attention to be back here and now as this mindful awareness, mindful of the body, the different bodily sensations, this posture, mindful of the pleasant feelings that arise within the meditation. And likewise, be mindfully aware of the state of our mind. Where is the energy of our attention drawn towards? Does it stay here and now? Is it caught up in thoughts? Is the mind drifting towards sleep? And regardless of whatever it is we notice or come forth, we simply come back again and again to this moment to reconnect with our own body, with our own feelings and mind, and see what happens. So again and again, invite our attention to come back to this moment, come back to practice mindfulness of the body, stay in touch with bodily sensations, mindfulness of feelings, in particular, any mild, pleasant sensations that arise within the meditation. Also mindfulness of the mind. Notice whether the mind is under the influence of different mental states. Is the mind influenced by sleepiness, drowsiness, or dullness? Is the mind still fairly active, agitated? Is the mind relatively calm, present, at ease in this moment? So by applying mindful awareness to body, to feelings, and to the mind, we create the conditions that facilitate the calming, the settling down of body and mind. And this is the favorable conditions for us to actually notice and therefore investigate the different aspects of reality. Reality can refer to the reality of our own body, our own feelings, our own mind, what is going on within ourselves. It can also be the reality, the larger reality that we are part of here. And one way of now talking about the actual theme or topic of investigation. Previously, I'm focusing more on the technique in terms of the method or mechanism. There is also another way of approaching this is in terms of certain theme and certain topic or idea. There are classic lists within Buddhism, and these different items are selected because they have a certain impact on us. By investigating them, getting to know them, and become better acquainted with them, or noticing, just checking on the facts, we are trying to exert a certain positive impact on ourselves and to influence our conditionings, the views and beliefs we hold on to. So classically, we start with a short list. Although the list you can add items to it. Sometimes we talk about investigating in terms of the three general characteristics of our experiences: impermanence, lack of satisfaction, and the last one is called not self or selflessness. Some add another quality, emptiness. So then becomes impermanence, lack of satisfaction, selfless, empty, selflessness, emptiness. And then you can add some more. There is the idea of dependent originations, how things, nothing stands alone in isolation. It's always completely dependent on the various parts, other factors and other conditions, causes and conditions. Dependent origination. Another term for that is conditionality. Then there is also, in so doing, then you can investigate the thusness of things. Thusness means how exactly are they in this moment, the thusness of things or the suchness of things, their true nature, so to speak. So this is a big long list, starting from impermanence, ending up with much more abstract ideas such as thusness or suchness or emptiness, and so on and so forth. Yeah. And these are different themes that we are invited to look into and investigate. And in so doing, they have certain impact on us. One way of understanding this is by investigating into a topic or a theme like impermanence. It's supposed to help us to notice within ourselves whether are we holding on to some misconception related to impermanence. Am I holding on to the misconception of permanence? Am I trying to, unbeknown to myself, or maybe I'm not so aware that I'm holding on to an idea of permanence, usually in relation to certain things, in relation to myself, of course, I'm not that foolish as to think that I'm completely permanent, but nonetheless, I do, in a more subtle way, hold on to a notion, or at least a wish that I would be around forever. I will live forever. Of course, if I were to articulate out in this way, I wouldn't agree to it because it's so kind of illogical, ridiculous. But nonetheless, deep down within our own heart or at the back of my mind, there is this wish, there's this kind of holding, this kind of grasping onto the idea of permanence. So permanence in relation to specific experiences or objects or things. Yeah. So by investigating into the fact of impermanence, or even just to see whether is it really factually true, help me to dispel some of the deeply held beliefs or views that are mistaken, misconceptions or misperceptions sometimes A more easier way to look at investigation is I try to get to know a particular person better. I try to pay more attention, listen better, less judgment, and more of being attentive, so that I get to know this person better. And sometimes as I get to know this person better, I may realize that I'm holding on to some misperception of this person, some prejudice against this person, some kind of hastily made premature judgment regarding to that person. And as I get to know the person better, I can uncover my own mistakes. Some of the views and images I hold about that person may not be true. And therefore, this investigation helped me to dispel those misconceptions, those misperceptions. And hopefully through this process, then I would have my view of the person, in this case, in this example, is more accurate, it's more factual, and therefore on that basis, making choices and decisions will be better informed. At least they're not on some kind of misinformation coming from a place of ignorance, which or distortion, sometimes even distorted view, distorted ideas and understanding, which clearly cannot be helpful to us. The distortion will feed into our decision making, into our choices, and we will be mistaken in the way we react to things, in the way we make choices. So this is the whole function of investigation, supported by mindfulness, is to help us to come closer and help us to be more in touch with the facts of life, the facts of reality. And this goes a long way to help us accomplish awakening. At least in the short run, it helps us to uncover our own mistakes, our wrong views, our mistaken beliefs. And as we loosen that, as we may not change our mind immediately or change of heart immediately, but at least things are a bit loosened. We don't hold on to them so tightly. We don't resist the fact so strongly, especially when we dislike what we see, dislike the fact. Usually it's because we don't like what we see, we don't like the reality, which is why we resist it or we try to live in denial. In either case, it's not helpful. So investigation is then can be carried out in relation to specific theme, to investigate them, to get to know them better, to come closer to them, and to see them as facts, to fact check, to see whether they are factual. And as we are open to that fact, to us letting into awareness, to also work out for ourselves the implications of each of these themes. What's all? Okay, I see things are impermanent. I come to accept things to be impermanent, and also I must specify what are those things. My body is impermanent. My mind is impermanent. I am impermanent. I'm changing, and one day I will be dead. Yeah. And not only that fact, but also the implication of that fact for myself. What sort of impact that has? Maybe no impact at all, which is in that case is not so fruitful, not so effective. The implications are important. It's precisely through being in touch with the facts. I want to see and then carry out the implications that flow from it, precisely by recognizing that my life is impermanent, is transient, and there is a definite end to it. This might inspire me to make better use of my time or to reassess my life from this different point of view, as opposed to one that take my life for granted, that I'm going to have this mistaken idea that I will hang around for a long time. I wouldn't die anytime soon, And so that sense of permanence, not in a philosophical sense, but in a more emotional sense, that holding has certain implications for myself. And if I hold on to permanence, and then I would be, in a way, contradicting the facts of reality. I'm also, in a way, put myself in an unenviable position. I'm ill prepared for change because I refuse to admit it. I refuse to see it for what it is. Yeah. So there's the whole idea of this aspect of investigation of reality, investigating in relation to specific themes and topics. So I hope that makes some sense. Let's just take a look at the impermanence, which is a very powerful topic or theme to reflect on, to think about, and to investigate. Investigate both in terms of paying closer attention and with the help of mindfulness. And in the future, we will look at investigation by way of reflection, by way of thinking, actually thinking about it, reflecting on it. But today, I will just stick close to what I've been talking about by way of mindful attention, mindful awareness. So in a meditative state, it doesn't have to be done in meditation, but in the context of meditation, we can see clearer. It can arise free from distraction, and we can really see the fact for ourselves, see for ourselves. We don't have to just believe in what someone said. We can verify it in our own direct experience, the fact of impermanence or change. So impermanence and change can happen at different level, at different rates. So some changes are very obvious. They are quite dramatic. One moment I'm alive, the next moment I'm dead. There's a possibility. That will happen eventually one day. Others are more subtle. Changes happen more gradual, more in terms of magnitude is much more smaller and therefore easy to miss. And also in terms of time scale, it happens very slowly over a long period of time, such as aging. So now I'm in my 50s, but somewhere in my mind, I still, in terms of my thoughts, I still feel like the same person as I was young. I actually have changed. I'm not really my younger self, but nonetheless, I don't think I'm the only person to feel like this. Mentally, we are less likely to notice the change, but change has happened to us. Actually, it is not true, but we more likely to hold on to an image of our mind being young or unchanged over all these years, as opposed to the body, because the body is harder to deny. We just look into the mirror, or just by walking or engaging in activities, we can't deny the impact of aging, of impermanence on our body. So the body is harder to get away with. The mind, if we don't pay close attention, we have a much more likely, and it's a misperception actually, to think that our mind is exactly identical to the mind of our younger self. It's not true. It's not that it's very different, but nonetheless, changes have happened to this mind. We have grown older. We have grown more matured. We matured in terms of thinking, hopefully, wiser in terms of our way of seeing things and responding to things. I hope, right? So these are positive changes, and this will not be possible if the mind stays unchanged over all these years and decades. So, denying change, it also means that we deny growth, we deny improvement, we deny the deepening of wisdom and understanding. Because all these are implied change, impermanence. And also, of course, as we age, in this day and age, we need to also acknowledge with aging comes not necessarily growth or development, which is possible, wonderful, but the other side, the degeneration, the failing, the weakening of certain aspects of our faculties, of our abilities, and that is also part of change. So change is not always pleasant, it can be unpleasant, or can be neutral, but that's just the nature of our life, of our reality. And this is what we are called to investigate and verify for ourselves in our own experience, maybe first in meditation, and then in our day-to-day life to be sensitized to really notice change as it's happened. And this is important because although our perception is geared towards noticing change or contrast, if something has changed, something has moved, we are more likely to notice it, to perceive it. So the difference, the change, on one hand, is something that we are sensitized towards, but day to day, from one moment to a moment, there's just way too much changes. So we also have a built-in mechanism, which is called change blindness. It means we are blind to certain kinds of change. If we don't pay special attention or we don't give closer attention, we are more likely to assume that the thing is identical. The change has not happened. We are blind to any or some of those changes. Yeah. And this is, of course, has a practical reason, no, because it just simply consumes too much energy for us to be aware of each and every single change that happened in our environment, that happened to ourselves. Fair enough, no. Otherwise, we would be so overwhelmed with noticing change. This is change, that change, everything change, that we don't have enough energy or mind space to deal with the implications of some of those changes. Hence, we do have a natural protection mechanism of change blindness, which basically just certain things we just completely oblivious to the changes that happen to it. Yeah. So in and of itself, it could be practical and useful, but when we solidify certain kinds of blindness towards change, to make it into a kind of misperception, misconception, seeing or thinking that this or that does not change, or wanting them to stay identical, the same, to resist change. That's when we'll get ourselves into trouble, because the image, the idea we are holding on to does not correspond to reality. So here I am holding on to a view, a belief of no change or permanence, and their reality is just changing. It will not stop just because we can't handle it, we don't like it, we are blind to it. That does not make no difference to reality. It is just following its nature. The discrepancy between our idea and image that we are hanging on with dear life and the reality of the moment get drift further and further. And the greater that discrepancy, the greater the chance of suffering arise, because we are no longer in touch with reality. We are just sort of lost in our own world, in our own ideas, and we might get a rude shock, when reality comes knocking, and we are not prepared for it. So this is the idea behind investigation of a specific theme, such as impermanence. In a meditative context, or I talk about meditative context, but it were also applicable to our day-to-day life, especially when in meditation, when the body and mind are much calmer, much more at peace, and they have released most, not necessarily all, but most of the reactivities, like for example, the tension and tightness that bother the body, and the kind of agitation or restlessness, or the kind of imbalances in the energy of the mind, either too agitated or too dull, too sleepy, too drowsy, too withdrawn, too uninterested, and too sort of like sulking, all kind of withdrawn, or too agitated, too much energy, restless, anxious, fearful, or upset. So free from this kind of imbalances, then we are in a very good place to really be in touch with the fact of change. And you will notice change is everywhere, every single moment in your meditation. There is change. Meditation is really about change in a sense. The breath, we breathe in, we breathe out. Of course, there are the pauses in between. So, but it's changing. The breath sensation is changing. In, out. It doesn't stay in any one particular phase. In fact, each of the phase itself, there's a beginning of the in-breath, the middle, and the end. There's a pause, and then the beginning of the out-breath, the middle, and the end, and yet another pause. And each of those phases are also different, right? And then not only within each breath, each full breath, but breath by breath. The breath can be, some breaths are shallow, others are deep. in terms of the sensations. Some like just limited to the upper part of the chest. Other times we feel the breath sensation extend all the way to the abdomen. Shallow, deep, can be fast, can be slow, can be what else? Deep, shallow, slow, fast, long, short. I mean, these are just descriptions. It's not how the experience of the breath is ever changing. Sometimes the breath sensations can get more and more subtle until it seems to have disappeared. I don't think we actually stop breathing, but we definitely are no longer aware of the sensations of the breath. It has become so fall below the radar of our awareness, becomes much more smooth and subtle to the extent that we are, unless you really look for it, otherwise it seems to have disappeared from the field of our conscious awareness. Yeah. And our bodily sensation, like for example, at this moment, I notice still a lot of tension, a lot of discomfort, unpleasant feelings at my shoulders, and that might persist in the meditation, or that might start to unwind in the meditation. So now the sensations themselves are changing. Not only the sensations, but also the feeling tone that go with it. One moment is unpleasant, and you can get more and more unpleasant, or less and less, and until it becomes neutral, and then it might shift and becomes pleasant feelings may arise. So feelings themselves are changing. And not to mention the mind. The mind is even undergoing more rapid change. One moment my attention is present here, the next moment I have spaced out, I have drifted towards sleep, it's just gone, so to speak. One moment my attention is very much with the body, the next moment my attention is drawn into a train of thoughts, taken away from the present moment. I'm off on my journey to some imaginary realm or down memory lanes. So my attention is caught up in something else. So changes to the mind. One moment the mind is very peaceful, present. Next moment a memory surface, trigger a reaction. I'm all upset and all uptight. So all caught up in the scenarios, the thoughts, the images, the emotions of something that has already happened in the past. I'm just revisiting them, all caught up in it. And then the next moment I might realize what happened and just drop the whole thing and come back to this moment. So the mind, as well as its functions and its experiences, are impermanent, are constantly changing. So this is what we need to investigate for ourselves. And of course, we must have a reason why we want to investigate. I mean, if we are not interested, we're not curious about it, of course we just we couldn't care less about it. We just hold on to our existing ideas and beliefs and views, and that's it. We just anything that confirm it, we let it in, take it in. It's what we call confirmation bias by psychologists. We tend to gravitate towards facts, ideas, and experiences, or other people's opinions, or whatever that confirm our beliefs, our views, and we stay away, or we ignore, or we deny, or we just not interested in anything that might contradict that, or stirs up doubt, or confusion, which is a very natural human things for us to do. We all do that, to a greater or lesser extent. And so the investigation into impermanence is precisely aimed at not allowing us to sit back and just go along with old habits, old conditioning, just go along with our current views or opinions. Is to call things into questions, is to invite us to re-examine, take a re-look at the various different fundamental facts of our life, of our reality. And we will only willingly do that if we see that this is something beneficial for us, and this is something that will contribute to our happiness. And that is a a difficult thing. A lot of time we are unwilling to do it. We might like the idea, but we never actually do it because deep down within us, we're still not convinced that this is the way to happiness. We still much more prefer to hold on to our existing belief, our existing view. Yeah. And this is something, just a talk like this is not necessarily going to change. We have to find our own motivation, our own reason. Personally, I thought curiosity is a good reason. Sometimes we are just genuinely curious about what's going on. No? In this case, it's not curious about the physical world, the external reality. This is curious about our inner experiences, our inner reactions, and the views and opinions that we cherish, we hold. What's going on within ourselves or within another person. Yeah. So we investigate the fact of impermanence. So we're going to conclude with a meditation. We come to see if we can give it a try and find out for ourselves how we may go about investigating impermanence in our own experience, and also in the midst of it to see what sort of reaction it might trigger within us, and where possible, I also invite you to pay attention and notice, and if you like, you can even think about it, the implications of impermanence for ourselves in a personal way. And I would recommend in this meditation, we're going to use the breath as a support. So we come back to the breath, and over and above the breath as a support, as the place to rest our attention and to invite our attention to come back to. As we attend to the breath, as we are aware of the breath sensations, just as an aside to start to see and notice the experiences, be it the breath sensations, be it feelings, be it other bodily sensations. Try to see and look at each and every of those experiences via the lenses of impermanence, of investigating. Is it true? Are these experiences impermanent? Are they subject to change? And what happens when they change? Do they all necessarily disappear? Do they morph into something else? Are they going in a positive direction, however we define it, or going to a negative direction? Can we lean closer and see for ourselves the truth of change, the fact of impermanence? And then see what happens. Right? So I invite you to settle back into a suitable meditation posture, just a very short meditation. Just make sure that the body is comfortable in the posture we have adopted. So in a brief way, we're going to run through what we did just now in the previous meditation, starting with, first of all, of course, the posture, ensuring that the body is placed in a suitable posture, and the posture come across to us, to our own body, as very stable, supportive, reassuring. Take care that the posture does not introduce additional and unnecessary pain and discomfort. Take a few moments at the beginning of the meditation, just allowing the body to once again get used to the posture, to adjust itself, to find its way into the posture. And we're going to make use of the breath as the support throughout this meditation. So let's start by getting in touch with the breath sensations within our own body. I invite you to quiet down, just turn your attention and see if you can detect within our own body sensations that we can associate with the breathing process, the process of breathing in and out. You may notice sensation around the nostrils, where we commonly feel the touch of air as it flows in and out of our body. Some of us may notice the movements at the level of the chest, a sense of expansion and contraction of the chest as we breathe in and out. And others may even notice that sensations of the breath at the level of the abdomen, the movement of rising and falling of the abdomen as we breathe in and out. So let's invite our attention to come back here now to reconnect with the sensations of the breath within our own body in our own way. I usually recommend not narrowing down and focusing on just one particular spot to be mindful of the breath. Instead, to broaden the scope and just allow ourselves to notice the huge variety of breath sensations in the different parts of our body. The nostrils, the chest, the abdomen, maybe the shoulders, the solar plexus, maybe the back of the throat, and even subtler sensations of the breath in other parts of the body. And when we do notice our attention distracted, see if we can notice that as a change in the objects of our attention. One moment we are with the breath, the next moment we could be miles away. We have gone down memory lane to the past, or we have followed our imaginations and arrived at a place of fantasy. In either case, there is a change. We take note of it and invite our attention to come back here now to rest on the breath sensations. Attending to the breath sensations within our own body. See if we can pay or give special attention to the natural out breath each time we breathe out. Breathing out and be mindful of it afford an opportunity to further facilitate, initiate change in our own experiences. And we even catalyze that by saying in our own mind the word release as we breathe out. Breathing out is an opportunity to release. Release something physical that is weighing us back down or holding us back, tensing up all the muscles in our own body. We can release. Breathing out is also another opportunity to release mental agitation, especially when the mind is very active, lots of thoughts, images, memories, cluttering the space of our mind. We can breathe out and persuade some of them to flow away and disappear. Breathing out, releasing, inviting our attention to be present here and now with the breath sensations. And alongside the breath, inevitably we notice the body, bodily sensations at the different parts, areas of tension, tightness, and discomfort, areas of ease, softness, relaxation, pleasant feelings. So invite attention to come back here and now, reconnect with the breath, and on the out breath, to deepen the sense of release physically, mentally. As we continue to facilitate body and mind to settle down, to go deeper into the meditation, to release unnecessary reactivities, both physically and mentally, to put aside the burdens weighing down on us, that hold us back, that limit us. Coming back to the breath, as and when we feel ready, think of this meditation as offering us many chances to investigate impermanence, to come firsthand, to experience change, which is actually happening all the time. Attending to the breath, we notice change in the length of the breath, the depth of the breath, the feel of the breath. Coming back to the breath, to transform the meditation into one of investigational reality. See if we can, while we continue to help body and mind to settle down. And each time we breathe out, to deepen the sense of release. See if we can notice change. Make a special effort, incline the mind, attention in such a way that we become aware of change. Change in the qualities of the breath itself, change in the experiences in our own body, change in the quality of attention of the mind. And also changes in the thoughts that pop into our mind, the things that preoccupy our attention. So coming back to the breath as a support, continue to allow into our awareness the facts or evidence of change or impermanence. Change can be accompanied by pleasant feelings, the loosening up, the unwinding of areas of physical tension and tightness. And as release happens, the release of the tension, the easing up of the tightness, and accompanied by a shift in feelings from something unpleasant to pleasant feelings. So change is evident here. And then finally, to conclude this short meditation, see if we can highlight to ourselves any positive changes we might be mindfully aware of, or we can notice in our own experience. Coming out of this meditation, areas of tension relax, become soft, unpleasant feeling replaced by pleasant feelings. Changes in the contents of the mind, changes in the state of the mind. Okay, so that is on investigation of reality. Is one of the factors that promotes conducive to awakening. And today we have, after a short review, we have looked at how we can apply mindful attention in the context of investigating the specific theme of impermanence. So we sort of start on this, and we're going to continue looking at this and other themes in the following session, and to look a bit deeper into how this factor of investigation of reality, how is it able to help us and reinforce or initiate positive change in our own experience. So thank you very much for your attention, and wish you have a good week ahead, and hope to see you here again next week. So good night.